All right, welcome everyone to the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon. Thank you for attending, and we hope you're having a great conference. I'd like to introduce Sam, who will be presenting a session titled Microsoft Teams for the Project Manager. We can see your screen now, Sam, so go ahead and take it away.
Thanks very much. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining. This session, Microsoft Teams for the Project Manager. Just running through the slides. So just a reminder there about the Microsoft 365 conference being held in Vegas. And a massive thank you to all the sponsors for this fantastic event. So it's really nice to have so many great sponsors stepping up and helping us with this event. So yeah, a few of them here on the screen. So thank you very much to each and every one of you. A little bit about me. So my name's Sam Graber. I look after our project management function at CPS. So a little bit about me in terms of my background. So before I took on the role I have now as head of project management, I was a senior consultant delivering Microsoft Project Online and Project Server based solutions into various project management organizations across the UK and Europe. So lots of experience in helping build and specify I say at the time, project online and project server based solutions, but with the ecosystem around work management that's now available to us in 365, a lot of that is moving more into SharePoint and Microsoft Teams as well. So I now look after our project management function, but still really keen on the technology and looking for some really cool ways to help us deliver projects and programs within using Microsoft technology. So personally, I'm based in Plymouth, so down in the southwest of England. And as I say, working for CPS, a Microsoft partner over here in the UK. I'm also a certified ProSci change management practitioner, so got a real interest in making sure that solutions are used well, utilized and fully adopted by the workforce to make sure that, all the fantastic solutions that everybody's building actually, kind of get used and the best value is made from them. So, so that's a little bit about me and what I've been up to, I guess, to date in my career. So a couple of slides in here. So for any of you who have already been to a session will have seen this, but we're looking where there's a raffle being run. So there's a link down there you can see in the bottom left of the screen. So visit the vendors booths, look at the sessions. Let's go back a slide. Submit your answers to the raffle. You need to submit at least 5 correct answers for your chance to win one of 3. So raffle there, the link's there. By all means, get involved with that. We've also got some couple of charities that we're looking to support as part of this event today. So we've got United Way and the International Medical Corps. So again, some links there. Please do, if you can, donate to these wonderful charities. They're doing great things. So thanks very much for that. So in terms of the agenda for today, we're going to, I guess, look at 4 main areas. So we're going to have a look at the Microsoft 365 ecosystem that's available for project managers. So we're going to look at all the tools that are available. I'll talk through kind of where and when they might be able to be used. We're then going to specify and focus on Microsoft Teams and how that can support project management, whether it's project management, program management, project delivery. There's an awful lot that Microsoft Teams can do for us. I've then got a solution demonstration for you. Which literally a couple of minutes before start decided to crash, but I think I've managed to get it back again. So we'll hopefully that will all go well. So I've got a few slides and very much a demo for you to have a look at, and then the next steps following on from that. Right, so on to the next slide. So one of my, I guess, favorite sayings that I've used an awful lot when I've worked with organizations in the past. So projects are complex and uncertain. Yeah, we know that they're not simple. They go wrong. We have technical issues. We run out of budgets. They are genuinely, in their nature, they are complex and uncertain. But project management shouldn't be. And as such, we therefore shouldn't overcomplicate the technology that we use to support project delivery. I see lots and lots of organizations who overcomplicate their project delivery methods and the tools to support them, which actually then makes project delivery really hard. And one of the solutions I'm going to show you and the stuff we're going to look at today is a really simple use of Teams that we can spin up and put together in, an hour probably, but we'll really start to leverage some value if it's used in the right way. So as I say, projects are complex and uncertain, but please don't make your project management processes or tools any more difficult than they need to be. So when we look at project management, and I've used the term project, but it could be project management, it could be program management, it really doesn't matter. It could be work package management, it could just be task management. But I've used the term project management because it's one that everybody understands. But when we look at project management and Microsoft 365, I guess we've got a number of different options available to us. So you'll see a chart here with an arrow going up the left-hand side, which talks about P3M. So for anybody where that's a new term, that stands for Project Portfolio and Program Management, or Project Program and Portfolio Management Maturity. So, whether it's very new to you as an organization or something you've done before. And basically, the further up the chain we go, the more sophisticated the tools get. So very bottom row there, we've got a really powerful platform. So we've got Power BI, we've got Dynamics, we've got Azure DevOps, we've got the Power Platform. So we've got some really great platforms there that we can use to, in terms of extensibility and integration, and a real building block for us. And then we move up a notch and we move into kind of work management and team collaboration. So this might just be the management of work between a small department or a group of people. In that case, things like Planner and To-Do are absolutely fantastic for that. We've then got Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is available for if you've got a slightly bigger team. And then we can start to look at Microsoft Project for the desktop. So again, a very, very common planning tool, but sometimes a tool that people find a little bit heavy. And then we've got Project for the web now, which is a fantastic tool that's available to us as well. We can then move up a level again, where we move into something like a PMO, so a project management office, where we're potentially looking to aggregate information across multiple projects, or aggregating multiple projects into a program. And at that point, you've got things like Project Online. Before Microsoft 365, I'd be saying Project Server, but things like Project Online and Project Home, which really allow us to start to aggregate information across all the different projects and really help us with resource management as well. And then we move into kind of an ePMO, so our portfolio and program management. And that's where we can start to do some really powerful things within Microsoft projects. So we can start to aggregate risks and issues. We can do portfolio prioritization. We can do resource management across a huge portfolio of projects. We can then start to loop in Power BI and do some kind of project portfolio and program level dashboarding. So really, depending, wherever you are in that kind of ecosystem, so whether you're a very mature organization with lots of project management processes, people who use Microsoft Project very, very heavily, you're going to be right at the top there, and there's going to be some tools in there in the Microsoft suite that can help you. But also, if you're very new to project management and you're just looking to manage some tasks within a particular team, then we can start to look at the work management and team collaboration. So, and we often find that you will work your way up a maturity curve as things go on. So today we're very much focusing on Microsoft Teams. So we're looking at that work management and team collaboration area. But as I say, lots of other options in there for you as well. So work management, so as I say, we've got To-Do, we've got Planner, we've got Microsoft Teams, we've now got Azure DevOps, we've got Project Online, we've got Power BI. So lots of tools available to us in the Microsoft 365 suite. Today I'm going to demo within Microsoft Teams. We're going to demo Planner, we're going to have a look at Teams, we're also going to have a look at Project for the web as well, all built into the same Microsoft Teams site to see what they can do for us. So a little bit more on a couple of those. So I guess something like To-Do. So for the individual, very good at planning and managing your day, focusing on what's important today, keeping track of deadlines and things that you actually have to do. And as I say, there's mobile apps, there's desktop apps, or we can just work on it through the browser, but very much for the individual, for managing your own individual day. We then move into Planner, which is much more built around teamwork. So the ability to pull people into a planner, organize work visually, keep track of deadlines, and work on potentially multiple projects at the same time within the same planner. We then look at Microsoft Teams. This is the one we're going to have a look at today. So this starts to leverage much more information. So we're starting to look at chats. We're talking about calls, meetings. We've got the integration with all the Office 365 apps when it comes to collaboration on documentation and things like that. It's configurable, lots and lots of add-ins available to us, which we can talk about a little bit later. And generally, for bigger projects, I would say. So where you're maybe running multiple projects for the same customer, where you're looking to collaborate on documentation. So much more than the previous screens where we were talking about individual task management. Here, we're very much talking about that team collaboration. And it's this is exactly what we've got to demo for you today. So how can it help us as project managers? So there's a number of bullets here, and we'll cover each of these when we drop into the demo shortly. But team collaboration and chat. So taking all the conversation outside of email. So rather than having lots of different emails coming through and fro and different conversations all related to the same project, we can pull all that email noise, as some people will call it, into Microsoft Teams. So there's that persistent chat that if people are coming into a project, then they can see it all. If people are leaving a project, then they leave it all behind, and it doesn't necessarily sit and clog up kind of email inboxes, which a lot of people hate. It also allows us to have a central repository for our documentation. So utilizing the SharePoint document libraries that are native to Teams means we have a single place for all our project documentation. So we don't have different copies of various high-level design documents or test logs or whatever project documentation you might have. Instead of it being stored in various network drives or possibly even in individuals' kind of laptops, it's all in one place. We know that if we go to the team site and go to the document library, or multiple document libraries if you want to, all that project documentation is there in one place for us. It also allows us to collaborate on those documents. So by having that document in Teams, there's the ability to all edit the same document, so we can all collaborate on that together. We can add comments without the need for sending attachments left, right, and center, or not knowing where things might be. So you can see all the historical chat about why we might have changed a particular paragraph in a contract, because it's all sat there in Teams for us. RAID management. So for those not too familiar with project management, RAID is risks, assumptions, issues, and dependencies. We could add into that things like lessons learned as well. But what we can have in there is we can have links within the team site, and I'll show you an example of that, to risk and issue logs. So rather than having to go elsewhere or having a risk or issue log stuck away in an Excel workbook somewhere, we can have it in Teams, surfaced in Teams, available for us to look at. We have integration with things like Planner and Project for the Web. So Planner in particular is an app that we can, or an add-in that we can use to pull into Microsoft Teams. Project for the Web, we can display the Gantt charts that we may have created in Project for the Web within that Teams site as well. We've also got the ability for third-party plugins. So there, multiple, third-party plugins, but in terms of kind of work management things, if we want to, like Jira and Trello, etc., plugins are available to add into those team sites as well. And a big one, certainly for our organization, guest access. So whether that's done via private teams or whether you have a separate team created for the customer than you will have for internal, because there's always some documentation or some risks that you might not want to share with the customer. But there's the ability to add and bring your customers in and almost have that collaboration portal available where you can easily share documentation with customers and really feel like you're bringing them into part of the team, as opposed to it being a them and us. So it almost works like a customer portal for you as well. So that's just a few of the ways that Microsoft Teams can help us as project managers. What I'm going to do now is switch to a demo and just show you this kind of in action, and then we'll move on from there. So bear with me 1 second. This is where I hope my demo is working. Excellent. Hopefully you can all see that. Fantastic. Right. So, oh, wrong screen. Let's try that again. Okay. So here's an example. So there's a couple of examples in here that we've got. So before I go into the detail, and let me just increase the screen size a little bit here for you. There's a couple of ways you can structure your project management kind of solution within Microsoft Teams. So in here we've got a project A and a project site. So the difference between these two is project A is
Sam.
very much, hey.
Hey, we're just seeing the, I think it's a pop-out chat maybe.
Oh, are you?
Me and you. Yeah, we're not seeing your full Teams client, unfortunately.
No, let's try this. There we go. Sorry.
Awesome, thank you.
Excellent, thanks very much. Okay, so sorry about that. So we've got so let's say down the left-hand side here, there's a number of examples. So if I look at the second one where we've got project site 1, this is a sample where you could almost say the project site 1 could be renamed as a program, or it could even be renamed as a particular customer. And then under each of these, we have a channel that represents each project that we're delivering for that particular customer. So we are in here, we've got project 1A, 1B, but let's say this customer was, I don't know, let's take Nike as an example. We might then have various projects that we're running for that customer, and each one of these channels would then become relevant to that project. So it almost works like a program with our projects sitting underneath it. The other option, and the option that I'm going to show you today, is where we have a project site. So we've got project A, and each of the channels is actually relevant to a particular team or department that's working on that project. So, for example, in project A, I have a general channel, which obviously we get with everything in Teams. I've also got a channel for finance, marketing, sales, and somewhere under here, a really important one for product development as well. So each of these have their own particular channel. In this example, our finance channel is a private one. So we only want certain people within this project to be able to see financial information. So we've created a private channel that sits as part of this project, and we only share particular documentation in here that certain people may want to see. If you're creating a team site for a customer and you want your customer to come in, then the private channels might be a good way to keep certain things away if there's some commercial related information in there. So we've got a finance channel, we've got a marketing channel, a sales one, and as I say, we've got our product development one. And in our product development, it's got its own planner link, it's got its own Azure boards link, and that will allow the product development team to have their own specific conversations around the project that potentially we don't want to clog up the general channel with, especially if there's many people working on a particular project. I'm going to focus on the general channel that we've got in here for a little while, just to talk through the kind of the setup we've put into here. So we've got the general and we've got the standard chat. So we've got kind of an announcement in here for the whole team so that people can see, hey, this project's live. This is the team site. This is where we're going to start to collaborate. This is where we're going to share documents and risks and issues. I've then added an example of a document and said, can I say, hey, Alan, could you go and review this document for me, please? So this is my way of kind of tagging people and saying, I've created a high level design. It needs a review. Instead of having to email it out, instead of having to send a link, I've dropped it into the channel here so that Al can go in and start to have a conversation. I've then done the same for Kevin. So in this example, Kevin wanted to know where the latest requirements document is. Again, straight into the post, I've just tagged in with that document so that we can see this persistent chat and things that may be useful for people going forwards. I've then got my files section that sits in here as well. So within the files section, we've got all the project documentation or the documentation that's been created to date. So we've got everything from the pre-sales presentation that may be really useful for the project team to see exactly what it was that the sales team was showing to the customer at the time. We've got our signed contractual agreement along with a statement of work. We've got our budget, which in this scenario is sat in an Excel spreadsheet. We've also got our project initiation document or PID. along with high-level designs and a requirements backlog. Again, the requirements backlog we could put into something like Azure Boards, we could put into Planner, but in here at the moment it's in as an Excel spreadsheet. So SharePoint document library, all the project documentation. So if anybody new comes into the project, they know they can go straight into this files area and see the project documentation that's here. What I've also done across the top, so for this particular project that we're running, the statement of work is something that people are constantly wanting to go in and check things up against scope when people are asking for, or customers are asking for additional pieces of functionality. So in here, I've just linked the statement of work, which is a document that sits in the files, but I've just linked it straight into a tab here so that when we click on it, it will load the statement of work up for us in Word. This is just a quick way to get to it. It's actually a blank document, but it gives you the idea. We've also got the shared OneNote file that sits within Microsoft Teams. So for every workshop that's held, for every meeting that we do, everybody on the team uses that OneNote file, and we've then got that persistent information and knowledge where we can see exactly what's going on and what has been said in particular workshops. We've got a tab for risks. So we talked about being able to pull risks and issues out of Excel spreadsheets and pulling them into Planner or into Teams. So if I click on the risks log behind the scenes, this is a SharePoint list, and it's a SharePoint list that's controlled by a content type. And we can see in here that people are able to create new or view existing risks that happen to be in here. So in here, we've got a risk around COVID-19, we've got a risk around scope creep, and we've got a risk around a hardware delay. And then the risk level, so we pop in a probability and an impact, and it will automatically calculate and then conditionally format that for us depending on how big a risk that might be to the project. So again, by having it in this SharePoint list, it's really easy to get to. It's not tucked away in an Excel file somewhere. And I'll show you something a little bit later just around a PMO hub, because we're also able to aggregate particular risks and issues from all of the individual project sites into a PMO hub within SharePoint as well, which is quite neat. I've got the same for issues. So I've got a tab in here for issues. Works in exactly the same way. So this lists the issues that we've currently got. So as examples in here, we've got an issue around customer sign-off on requirement has been delayed, and there's been a funding delay due to COVID-19. And then in terms of task management, we've got a couple of different options. So we've got Microsoft Planner. So once it loads, so in Planner, we've got the various buckets. So we've got a to-do, we've got tasks that we're looking to do this week, we've got tasks that are ready for review, and we've got tasks that are ready for release. And we've also got various categories in here, so various tags, and depending which tag we put on, drop them into relevant planners within each of the individual channels on the left-hand side. So really nice visual way to be able to view tasks. So we can view those as a board. We can view them as a schedule. So this is all native functionality to Planner that we're just bringing into Teams. And we've also got charts, so we can start to see things like how many tasks have we got, what's their progress. So we've got 2 that aren't started, 1's in progress and 1's completed. We can see them within relevant buckets, we can see them within priorities, and we can also see who's got tasks assigned to them and who hasn't. So as I say, native functionality that exists within Planner, but all surfaced within this project site. And then the other thing we've got in here as well is we've got a link to a project plan. So anybody who's worked with project managers before will know project managers love Gantt charts. So it's one of the things we enjoy putting together. So not just for pictures, as many people think might be the case. But in here, this is a Gantt chart that I've put together using Project for the Web. And then I've created a link from this Teams site so that can be seen in here visually. And we've got the ability to kind of zoom in and out of here, and we can look at roughly the cycle we're going through. So we've got a design phase, a development phase, then we move into a customer UAT and training phase. And again, we can modify this in here. So if we want to mark test as complete, we can do so. If we want to extend tasks, we can simply extend tasks in here as well. If we want to reduce tasks, and we can do the same thing, we can reduce the durations. You can create all the dependencies between the various projects as you would want to in Microsoft Project. So for anybody who hasn't used Project for the Web and finds Microsoft Project too big, then Project for the Web is a fantastic tool for creating, visual Gantt charts. And again, the fact we can surface it in this team site, and we can basically, anybody who's working on the project can come into here, they can see all the posts, all the files, all the risks, all the issues. They can see the project plan. That kind of means day to day, they can operate within this, within this team site, which is really valuable and saves a huge amount of time. This project can be viewed as a timeline. It can also be viewed as a board. So very similar to the planner board we looked at before. And it can also be viewed just in a grid form without the picture or Gantt chart alongside it. We've got the ability to add additional tabs along the top as well. So this is just, as I say, just an example for the time being, but this is where all the different plugins come in, but we can link to other Excel files, we can link to other OneNote files, we can bring in Azure DevOps, Power BI. So there's lots of other things we can do with this site. This is just a very basic example of the kind of bare bones site that we would use to help us deliver projects, to make sure that all that information that a project team need is all sat within the same team site. The other thing I'll show you, which we've got in here, so if I move into SharePoint, so I did have this loaded, and I move into this one. So in SharePoint Online, we, move back to home, have a PMO hub site. So what this does, we've got the individual planners. So in here, you can see we've got Project A, we've got Project Site 1, we've got Project B, and we've got Project C. So there are a number of different project sites that I'm a member of and happen to be a member of within this tenant. And the PMO hub site enables us to pull all those individual project sites together. So you can see in here Project A, Project B, Project C, and Project Site 1. But also do clever things like aggregate the risks and the issues from each of the individual project sites into this PMO hub site. So if you're an organization that has a PMO or has a kind of like, I guess similar to my a head of project management role, where you don't want to necessarily see the individual projects and delve into each of the individual team sites, then by creating this hub site, it gives you the ability to pull those risks and issues from the risks that exist within Project A, the risks that might exist within Project Site 1, the risks that might exist within Project B. It pulls them all together into this hub site, so I can see them all in one place. So this is just a really basic example of something we can do, but we can do the same with if we've got risks, lessons learned. So one of the benefits of lessons learned is we can then start to have a lessons learned portal at this level, where we can see what the lessons were that we've learned across all the projects that happen to exist in the system. And it just enables, it just saves people a little bit of time if you're looking to aggregate that sort of information. Okay, so quickly move back to the slides. So move back into here. Okay, so that was a quick demo of, as I say, very simple team site. So just move a conclusion. So conclusion and next step. So a simple team site like the one I've shown you, as I say, very straightforward to pick up, can really transform the way you're collaborating with your team. So rather than having, as I say, documents all over the place, risks in Excel spreadsheets, issues in another Excel spreadsheet, not particularly knowing where the latest statement of work is that was signed off by the customer, not knowing where the current design documentation is, which was the version that was signed off by the customer, which one was just a draft version. By having all that stuff in one place, it can really help the way you transform and collaborate with your team. So it gives us that central repository for documents. It gives you that persistent and easy searchable project related conversation. So if somebody comes into a project late and all the project information is on email, they're never going to find any of that information. If it's sat within your team site, they're going to find it. A single place to manage RAID, so your risks, your assumptions, your issues, your dependencies, your lessons learned if you want to put them in, your actions, any other list related activity that you might be creating around a project, you can create that list in SharePoint, you can surface that list in your team site. a place to review and share documents prior to release. So I don't really know how we collaborated on documentation and reviewed it prior to Microsoft Teams. It saves us so much time, being able to just quickly comment and share and collaborate and edit that document all at the same time. And it also gives you an area to manage your tasks, manage your Microsoft project plans, and any other information that might be sat in there too. So in terms of next steps, go away, have a play. If you've got Microsoft Teams, I'm sure you all have. If you're running projects and you're struggling with any of the things we spoke about, go away, create a team site for your project, add some of the information in that we've talked about today. So even if you just have the standard chat and the document libraries, and you bring in Planner, those three things alone, you're automatically pulling together team conversation, project documentation, and task management, which really are three key things to projects. So even if you don't go as far as pulling in your risks and your issues, if you do those three things, it really won't take you long to create that site, and it will really help transform the way you deliver in your project. So thanks for joining us. We've got, I think, 10 minutes left, so we've got some time for some Q&A. So please do post any questions you might have. But if not, thanks for joining us for the session today, and I hope you found it useful. So we've got a few Q&As.
Thank you, Sam. That was great. Yeah, there's some questions in the chat. I can either pitch them to you, or if you can see them.
I've got them here. Yeah, absolutely.
I've
got them here. Cool. So thank you. So I've got one from Catherine. So what role does under 50 age group play in the success of adoption? Doesn't this work best for more groups adaptable to change, for instance, Microsoft? Yeah, so it's a really interesting question. So thanks, Catherine. So I guess that focuses on a little bit more on kind of the adoption and change, how you actually deploy one of these, which is one of these solutions. So if you take away, people have a comfort zone, people sit in a comfort zone of a way they operate and potentially a way they've operated for years and years, and suddenly saying, you don't send emails with attachments anymore. The document will now live in Microsoft Teams. It will now be collaborated and discussed on, and you might get sent a link, or you might actually have to go and find it yourself as opposed to sending an attachment. Or generally just asking someone to change the way they work is a difficult thing to do, and it's all about, at that point, I guess, showing them the benefits. So we use a ProSci methodology for change management, and it has an ADKAR methodology, and the D in ADKAR stands for desire. So it's all about helping the users and showing them to understand, what's in it for them. What's the benefit of them changing the way they work and potentially moving all the project related activity into Teams, and helping them. So understanding that people might need to, you might need to sit with that person for longer. If people's IT skills vary. So if you've got somebody who's great with IT, they're new in from university, they're used to using kind of social media, and they're used to all that kind of thing, you'll find they'll pick up these, potentially, not always, but they'll pick up these kind of things very, very quickly. And there'll be other people in the organization who you might need to spend more time with. So it might be they're just not used to using it. It's something they feel uncomfortable with. They might feel they're going to break something. They might feel they don't want to post something in an area where lots of people can see and view the previous conversation. And at that point, it's really just working with those people to help them, one-to-one coaching. And you can do that via kind of lunch and learn sessions, or we generate digital champions networks that allow you to have a champion within a particular team where they can go to and ask questions. So you can have resistance to change. It's natural. It happens. We all, when new technology comes in, we all sometimes put up resistance, but trying to identify it and understanding why people don't or are having issues with it is part of the key. So I've got another question. Once a project is finished, would you recommend deleting the team or archiving? So really interesting question. I think depending on the projects you're delivering, you may have data retention policies for documentation. So you might be delivering a project where to a local government, for example, where you have to keep documentation for 5-10 years. So in that scenario, we certainly wouldn't recommend deleting the team. But for documentation, for example, sits behind the scenes. It sits in SharePoint, so it's sat in SharePoint. So you can use various. I'm not an expert on document retention in the slightest, but there's lots of options where you can kind of take that documentation and move it to somewhere where you know it's going to be safe for a period of time. You could remove people from the team if you didn't want them to be there for a period of time, but I certainly wouldn't necessarily recommend deleting the team. There's always going to be lots of valuable information in there, and especially if you've created the PMO hub that's sucking up information from other projects. If you delete that team and delete all the content that was there with it, then you're also potentially removing it from the records permanently. And one of the benefits of storing project related information for a period of time is when you run a project that's similar another time, so you run a project that's very similar to one you've run previously, you can go back and look at what happened on that previous project, and understand what issues you may have had, what risks there were, what worked and what didn't work, and kind of take those learnings into your next project. So if you delete the team and everything that goes with it, you don't have any of that historical information to go back to. Got any other questions in here? What are the main cases for using To-Do versus Planner? So for me, I use To-Do for my individual task management. So tracking individual tasks, and I use Planner for more team-related activities. So where I want to assign lots of different tasks to various members within the same team and see them all pulled together. That's personally how I use it. I know other people use them in different ways. But yeah, for me, To-Do I use for my personal tasks, and Planner I would use when I'm looking to plan things for a wider team and start to assign things to various people as well. I also, Planner for me is very visual, moving things into the different buckets and having people go in and see where things are. That's where I'd look to use Planner. What program was the PMO in? So the PMO hub site was a SharePoint hub site. So within SharePoint, you can create hub sites, and then the individual project sites that we created a link to that hub site, and therefore that kind of aggregates and pulls that information from the individual sites into the hub site. I've got another one. I think organizations pay for software like Teams and SharePoints and park them like very shiny cars and brag on them versus actually learning to drive them. So interesting comment, Catherine. I think some people do just switch on functionality. So they will just switch on Teams or they will just switch on SharePoint, and in an uncontrolled nature. And it's very difficult to then keep track what's going on. So what's really important, we find with any of these deployments, is to, before you switch them on, is to think about, how are we going to roll this out? How do we work? What do we want it to do for us? And make sure that there's some governance behind it as well, so things don't go kind of wildly out of control. So having that governance in place before you switch these things on is really, really important. Is there any integration between Project for the Web and Planner? Good question. I'll be honest with you and say I'm not sure of the answer to that, but it's definitely one that I can look to take away. So I think my my contact details are on here. Are they on here? Yes. So so the person who asked that question, by all means, drop me a mail and I can look to answer that for you, and let you know. Another question in here. How can I add Project Web to a team? I can't find it in one of my teams. Okay, so it's not a add-in. So it's not an add-in like kind of Jira and Planner, etc. at the moment. So it won't be there to add Project for the Web, but it should be available to you in your Waffle. So and it will be called Project. So you can go in, you can create your project, and then the way I added it to my Microsoft team is there is the ability just to add a web link, and I added the web link into my team as an additional tab across the top. It would be great, and I say I'm not aware of the roadmap personally, but it'd be great if it did come in as an app eventually. But yeah, at the moment it's very much I did it via a web link. And another question: Is there a way to secure all data of every team, even when it's deleted by the user? Good question. Again, probably one out of my technical remit to answer. Again, you're welcome to drop that as a question to me, and I'll look to get that answered. But I don't want to answer that because I don't know. and I don't want to give you some incorrect information. And Kevin, so Sam, no integration with project for the web yet, but graph to an API may mean that devs can add to this soon. Thank you, Kevin. I'm glad you're on, and I knew you'd know the answer to that. So thank you. Any other questions from anybody?
There are some under the Publish tab as well.
Oh, there, fantastic.
That were featured questions, yeah.
Excellent.
Somebody had a great comment about you forgot to mention that you can build a bot to nag people about timesheets. I thought that was pretty good.
Where did that come from? So let's have a look. So there's one from Jeffrey S. You seem to be using 3 tools: SharePoint Lists, Planner, and MS Project. Is that correct? Do these 3 apps integrate? So I guess I was showing lots of different examples there. So there is integration. There's integration between Microsoft Project Desktop and Planner, which is there. There's also a way, certainly within in the project online space, where you can synchronize Microsoft Project to SharePoint task lists. So there is some integration. I would generally say it's a case of working out what works best for that particular project. So some people are heavily driven by Gantt charts, which is why I wanted to show kind of project. Other people are more than happy working in that Kanban board style within Planner. So there are 3 different tools in that demo, and I guess it's just showing the different examples that are there for you. And there is some integration between the 3, but I think it depends on the nature of the project you're running, the team you've got, and how they want to work, and how you want to manage tasks. There were plans to have project and project online task bubbles up in Microsoft To Do. Is this feature still on the cards, or do we need to track project tasks separately from Planner and To Do? Not sure the correct answer to that, Stan, to be honest. Again, one I'm happy to take away and have a look at. So I'm not sure, if I'm honest, what the roadmap looks like on that. Any others I've missed? Do you have best practice for team naming when you're inviting external users? A strategy on preventing external teams from being added to an internal team? So interesting. So we'll often have, certainly the way we operate, we have our team as a client name, and then every single project we run for that client is a channel underneath that client. If we then are creating a customer facing team, we will call it client A brackets customer. It'll be very, very clear that that team is related to the customer. The project team will be aware that that is the customer facing team, and we will only put information in their documents, etc., that we want the customer to see. So that's the way we do it in terms of naming convention, and then it makes it quite obvious. I've not found the one on timesheet police yet, but I'm as intrigued by that one. So are there really organizations that immerse themselves in teams and abandon habits such as traditional email? So interesting. Yes, I'm working with a large public sector organization at the moment of tens of thousands of people, and they are looking to move away from an email culture and into teams. It's hard, and I'm working with them in a change management capacity, and changing habits is difficult. But they want to do it, and that's been driven from the top. However, it's not straightforward. You don't do it overnight, and it's a slow burning solution often, but there are some looking to do it. But you're absolutely right. Small organizations, 100 and below, generally much more agile, and you can find that those people can move into a newer way of working much quicker. But you'd be surprised, there are a lot of large organizations, particularly in the UK, who are adopting, councils that are adopting Microsoft Teams and are looking to change the way they work. You forgot to mention that you could build a bot to nag people about timesheets. So that's anonymous, but we've just built a bot internally that nags people about timesheets. So I do wonder whether that might have come from someone I potentially know. Which is good. I think, is that it on the Q&A, or have any more appeared? Excellent. Brilliant. Some really good questions there, guys. So thank you. And thanks for attending the session. As I say, not too technical, very much I guess a use case scenario that I wanted to share with you all, and one that I think a lot of people we all get involved in projects. So there's certainly some things to take away from there. And even if you do something really simple, I really do think it will help. So thanks very much for the